Let's talk Royals. Let's go straight over to Los Angeles and talk to the great Kinsey Schofield, royal expert over there on the West Coast. Almost a stone's throw from Montecito, where the gruesome twosome Harry and Meghan live. Couple of big stories breaking. We've got a big one about our favourite lifestyle site, haven't we, Kinsey? American Riviera Orchard. Launched 8 months ago by Meghan, by the Duchess of Sussex. Lifestyle site's going to sell cutlery, it's going to sell beige towels, cushions, all that kind of nonsense. Still isn't open for business, nowhere near opening for business. Has been mired in quite a few legal challenges about its actual name. So the Trademark Association in America said, well, you can't have that name, American Riviera Orchard. It's geographical and it's too vague. Now we've got a major challenge, a major lawsuit or legal challenge has come in from a big chain of stores in America. A big company, $1.7 billion turnover, 3,000 staff, I do believe. So no minnows. They are saying we have the patent, we have the trademark, the brand name, Royal Riviera, and therefore you can't call your business American Riviera Orchard. Now, along the way, for the past 8 months, nothing has happened. Nothing is on sale. Nothing. This is a sea of nothingness. We're now hearing, it's being reported now, that Meghan has just come to the end of her tether with it all, and she's lost all interest because it's become so difficult. And it is being reported, and I'm quoting this phrase, American Riviera Orchard is dead in the water. All over.
Well, I've not heard that she's lost interest. I've heard out here that she is petrified of being judged. She's petrified of the negative reaction. And I think that that is a fair fear, because we've had 8 months where we've waited so long that we are going to go over everything with a fine-tooth comb if and when it launches. So what I have heard in the States is that she is just so fearful to press that live button. But, you know, we're hearing this from the Daily Mail, and you and I both love the Daily Mail, but the Daily Mail also told us that we should expect the launch of American Riviera Orchard to happen with Meghan Markle's Netflix series, the cooking series, which should happen sometime after 2025. So I do think we need to have a little patience here and see if that is actually how everything comes to fruition. But I don't agree that she's lost interest. I think she is all over the place, like Tina Brown has said before. Tina Brown has said in her book, the Palace Papers, that, you know, Meghan kind of just tends to jump on whatever's trendy at the time. So if everybody's talking about Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, of course Meghan wants to be the next Gwyneth Paltrow. I think Meghan just does whatever she thinks will get, you know, a positive reaction at the time, and she's not necessarily as focused as she should be. But I don't think that I don't think she's lost interest. I think that she really thinks she's an entrepreneur, and she hates being criticized, and she is opening herself up to criticism in this arena, especially because she's made us wait for so long.
But what about this big challenge, this brand challenge, which will definitely hold things up very much? It's from a company called Harry and David, which is an American institution founded in 1934 with annual sales of £1.7 billion, so probably over $2 billion, and 3,300 staff. Part of that company, they say that, well, I'm sure they're telling the truth, they've told the United States Patent and Trademark Office, we own the trademark Royal Riviera and you can't have American Riviera Orchard. So it seems like a pretty strong case, that. It will certainly hold things up, but whatever happens, she may have to change the name.
Yeah, so the protest, they say that this is relevant because of a likelihood of confusion. Somebody might see American Riviera Orchard and assume that it is Harry and David's company, Royal Riviera. And it's been referred to Marco Wright, the trademark office's examining attorney. So we have to have patience in this and see what Marco determines. But this is being called a multi-billion-dollar problem because Harry and Meghan, specifically Meghan, I should say, she keeps having to go back. I mean, this isn't the first trademark issue we've had.
Yeah.
And I talked to a marketing expert this week on my podcast. No skin in the game. She doesn't care about Harry and Meghan. She does not care. And she said, just observing this launch and Richard Eden's story that he called them and said, I have this scoop. And Meghan prematurely launches this website just to ensure that Richard Eden can't have this victory lap. She said if she were Meghan Markle, she would scrap the whole thing, rebrand everything. And she said, why do she said, for the last 4 years, I've watched this woman in the media tear down the monarchy. And then I open up her website and the insignia looks like a royal logo. So she said Meghan has to completely reevaluate what her brand is. She can't be the Duchess of Sussex while tearing down the monarchy. And she also said if she were advising her, she would say never, ever talk about the royal family again. There's nothing authentic about you. You have to find that authenticity, and you cannot continue to tear down this institution that is so much more powerful than you. And she also said, unless it's positive, but I give you the example. The only time I've seen Meghan communicate positively about the royal family is when she thought she was telling a cute story about meeting the Queen for the first time and doing that obnoxious fake curtsy. And there is not an ounce of authenticity in that moment. So I would argue just stay away from any memories, any memories about the royal family. Stop talking about them. Focus on the future. But this woman said to me, what does being a duchess have to do with jam? None of it makes sense, Kevin. Her ideas are crap.
Yeah, total crap, as Tina Brown said. Also said that Meghan has the worst judgment of anyone in the entire world. And I mean, frankly, I don't suppose that American Riviera Orchard is the worst idea in the world, but the way it's panned out, it is taking on all the trappings of a totally crap idea because it's just not happening. My feeling about it is, I don't quite agree with you. You and I occasionally don't see eye to eye on these matters. I think she's very flippity-gibbety, if there's such a word as that. She gets sort of like, I'm going to do this, and then she's sort of all over something, all over a project for about 2 weeks. And then she gets bored and moves away. And if these projects become problematical, she just moves away completely. And it looks to me as if that syndrome is prevailing here when it comes to American Riviera Orchard. It's been so long that she hasn't managed to start it. It's mired in so many problems, all these legal challenges. Can she even call it American Riviera Orchard? And I think she's just turned around and gone, I had enough of this, and she's going to move on to something else. But we'll find out which of us is right, Kinsey. It will almost certainly be you. I'm usually wrong. Now, let's move on to a big royal story. It's in the New York Post, something of an exclusive. And it is that King Charles continues not to respond to Prince Harry's phone calls and letters. And this is coming from Robert Hardman, who actually is a journalist for the Daily Mail, but he's a very respected royal author. The royal family like him. The royal family talk to him. He's written a lot of royal books, and they come from the horse's mouth. And he is saying that the king has been urged not to speak to his son, and is following that advice. Hardman is saying, I know people keep saying, why doesn't he see Harry when he's in town? Why can't they patch things up? But right now, there's a sense that we've just got to keep the king's stress levels down. So it's all about the king's cancer. And he's been told, don't talk to your son. It just winds you up and you're not well. It will hinder your recovery. And he's taking that advice. So Harry, according to Robert Hardman, and Robert Hardman does know what he's talking about, He does have ins into the royal family. Harry is apparently desperately calling his father and writing him letters, and the king is not responding. That's quite a story.
Well, and don't forget that someone in Harry's camp told People magazine something similar not too long ago. And I think we discussed at the time how we felt like it was Prince Harry continuing to try to lean into that victimhood narrative. Oh, woe is me, daddy won't take my calls. But, you know, Kevin, when I sit back and hear this story, which I agree, I do believe that this story is true. There is going to come a point in time where, you know, I know that this used to be treasonous to discuss, but the king's not going to be with us forever. And Prince Harry's going to have to sit back and say, I lost years of my father's life because my wife drove me away from my family. And I know there are going to be some people that don't agree with me. He is a grown man. He makes his own choices. But Meghan has made it incredibly difficult for Prince Harry to continue to communicate with his family. She's made it incredibly difficult for his family to trust him and his wife. And they have done nothing but destroy that relationship over the last 4 years. And no matter how resentful Harry is over his youth, he's a very privileged man who just received a ridiculous inheritance from his great-grandmother. He only has one daddy, and it's going to be a great loss for him one day. And he is going to regret these years that he wasn't able to just pick up the phone and call his father. And to me, there's one person to blame for that. Yeah.
And Camilla, the Queen Camilla, has played a big part in this estrangement, if you like, between Charles and his son Harry. Because when Harry was in London earlier this month, the Queen apparently urged Charles to avoid meeting up with him. And this is all due to fears over the King's health. You know, that it's stressful for him to see his son. It always comes in a blaze of publicity. So, but Harry's trying to reach out or trying to get in touch with his dad, and it's just not happening. So,
but Kevin, imagine that meeting, because, you know, I think something that Robert Hardman says is, if you look at everything Prince Harry has accused the family of or said over the last few years, that's a lot to unpack. If I accused you of racism, if I called you an evil stepmother, what is it going to be like to sit in a room with you for the first time in several years? That is not an easy meeting to have. It's like, it's not just a, hey, how are you? You have to go into some of these issues, and the king is not in a position to do that right now, physically or mentally. You know what I mean? You know, it's just going to add that additional stress. And you know, we talk all the time about what a soft heart he has. I think it would eat away at him to have that confrontation. And I don't believe that half of the things that Prince Harry says to begin with. So I think it's an unfair it is an unfair situation for the king to be in, but it would not be a quick, hello, how are you? That's just, you can't. You're right.
And you're right. You're also right about the king. The one thing about the king, he hates confrontation. You know, he's very English like that. It doesn't like kind of emotional liaisons and all that. So it would be very emotional. It would be a confrontation. And I think Meghan continues to be a real problem. I mean, it has been apparently pointed out to Harry, who is courting the idea of coming back to Britain. He misses his popularity here in Britain, and he kind of wants to get it back. And apparently he's been told by courtiers that, you know, if there's even an outside chance of you doing that, you can't bring your wife. She's too toxic. So he's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's in a quandary. And as we always say, where's he going in life? God only knows. Same deal for her. But you know, we'll carry on talking about them until we get some sense, Kinsey. So have a great weekend. Great to talk to you as always. We'll talk on Monday.